All right, so let's get started with setting up our build for the H350 with GrabCAD Print Pro. So first, obviously, I'm going to bring in my part files. So we'll do this C clamp or this clamp and connector housing. We'll bring these parts in. And as you can see here, the two red exclamation points indicate that both parts have errors in them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to our analysis mode where I can repair my models. And GrabCAD Print Pro does a really good job at repairing models very quickly, especially if there's issues with the mesh or there's minor holes in the parts. You can see it takes a couple seconds just to fix both of these parts. So once these are fixed, we'll be ready to bring them into the 3D nest. Right, and as you can see, it only took a couple seconds. So we'll get out of this module here, and since both of these parts are still highlighted, I can right-click and go to Move to 3D Nest. Now I'm just going to move these into our build volume here. This is the H350 build volume. That gives a nice visual. And one thing that you can see is, looks like it's out a little bit. One thing that you can see here is that this clamp part is rather odd orientation. That's just how it got brought into the software. It might be how it got exported. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to orient that so that it enables us to get as many parts as we can into the build volume and give us our highest packing density, which is ultimately going to give us our best ROI on the parts. So what I'm going to do is click Orient, and I'll do Orient Face to Plane. So instead of messing around with angles and trying to play that game, I'm just going to do Orient Face to Plane, and I'm going to select this plane. And now what you can do is you can choose whatever you want that plane to be on the build platform. I'm going to make that the bottom, so I'll click bottom, and as you can see, that just flattens the part out, but it didn't square it up completely with the build. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go back to that, and just to show you guys, I'm going to manually square this up with the build volume, and there you go. So we'll get out of this, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and this part obviously is a lot easier to select a plane to rotate that part. So we'll do Orient Face to Plane, and then we'll choose this plane. We'll have that be the bottom, so it flips it over, and now that's the orientation that I want to keep. So one thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to right-click actually on both of these parts. So I'll highlight both of them, right-click, and what I'm going to do now is lock orientation. So what this is going to do is it's going to lock this orientation so that when I duplicate the parts, it's going to hold that orientation for all the parts that become duplicated. So now that we're ready to duplicate, I'm going to right-click, duplicate, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in 1 second. We'll do 45 parts each. So now we have 45 of each part, and as you can see, it's the same orientation that I just locked with all of these parts. So now what I'm going to do is I can now nest all of these parts. So I'll go over to 3D Nest, and as you can see, there's you can select your model spacing, your nest method. You can do compact or no interlocks. I'm going to stick with compact for now. You can set your nesting height. So if you only want your build to be 6 inches high just for time restrictions, you can select that height, and you can click 6 inches right here, and then it'll tell you the print time for that. So if you only have 6 hours to print, or if you want to do a day build or something like that, you can select that and still get some parts done, and that way you won't have to wait as long for the parts to cool as well before breaking them out. So we'll do the full height. So we'll do 11.21. So we'll keep it there, and I'm actually just going to deselect that. We'll keep it as it defaults it to the full build. So another thing you can do is you can select the nesting density. So if you only want it to be 5%, you can select it as that. I usually just leave it because I want my builds to be as dense as possible, because that's how you're going to get the cheapest cheapest parts. Same thing with the time. It'll stop the nesting after the given time that's elapsed. So if you're only making a coffee and you only have 5 minutes, you can select 5 minutes, and when you get back after that 5 minutes is up, that's what your build is going to be. So now we'll go down here to nest selected. So that's just going to nest our parts. And usually this takes a couple minutes. We'll see. I suspect this will take around a minute 30 to get a pretty good nesting density and to get all our parts in the build. So as you can see, I got 90 parts total. We're already at 85, and it's been 20 seconds. So we'll let that run for a little bit and see where it goes. Hoping that we can get up to at least a 16% nesting density with this build. Another cool feature that GrabCAD Print Pro has is that it'll show this nesting density, it'll show the height, it'll show how much time's elapsed, and this is like a little graph that kind of shows the time and where the density is at. So, right here I can see after 23 seconds, I got a full build with, about 14 3/4 nesting density. So we already have all of our parts in there, and we actually aren't even at the full nesting height, or at the full height of the build. So we're at little over 10.5 inches out of 11.21. So we'll let that run a little bit and see how far we could get, see how dense we can get it. We did get over 16, so that was pretty cool. We're at 16.5 now, and I'll let that run for a couple more seconds. And once I hit accept current nest, it's going to stop the nesting function, and that'll be the build that we'll have. So I'll do accept current nest. And it's just stopping that nesting software now. Okay, so no problems were found. The nesting software didn't detect any interlocks or anything like that. So now we have our full build here, and in about a minute 30, we were able to get a nesting density of almost 17%, and we actually didn't even fill up the full build volume. So I could get more parts in here if I wanted to, and if I had smaller parts, this would even be better. But we're going to hold on to this for now, just for the example. So what I can do now is I can delete these two parts, and now you have your nest that's ready to be printed. So now all you have to do is come down here, select print. Unfortunately, I'm not on our computer that is designated to setting up our H350 build, so I'm not able to send that over to our printer. But all you'd have to do now is click print, and your printer will come up similar to any other printer with GrabCAD Print, and you should be able to send it right over. Another thing that's really cool about GrabCAD Print Pro for the H350 is that when you do an estimate, it'll give you an estimate of how much material you're using for this build, how long it's going to take. It's going to give you kind of I like to call it like a receipt. So it's going to give you a receipt on your build. So it'll tell you your print time. So it's going to be 12 hours and 18 minutes. We're using 2.68 kilograms of PA11, 239 milliliters of the HAF material, and the total model volume in inches cubed is 160. And then it shows you how many parts were nested, how many were outside the nest, the build density, the pack height. And then if you go over to build report, it'll show you each part that's in this build, how many parts are in there, and the volume in inches cubed per part, along with the mass in kilograms. And you can copy this, you can download it. So if you want to save it, if you have a reoccurring job, it might be a good idea to save that just so you know how much material you're going to be using in the future. Just for ordering material and knowing how much you can get out of the amount of materials that you have. And that's how quick and easy it is to set up a build for the H350 with GrabCAD Print Pro. As you can see, this took under 10 minutes to do, and you're getting 90 parts out of that that'll be ready to break out. That'll be done printing in in a little over 12 hours, and then you'll let it cool for another 24 hours. So in 36 hours, you'll have 90 parts in hand, ready to go.